Hello and welcome to Broadband Deployment News. T-Mobile is rumored to be making a big move to expand into fiber further than they have already. Be right back with more. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Corn with Broadband Deployment News. So T-Mobile has dabbled a little bit in fiber. They are a company that obviously is a international carrier of cell phone service, 5G and whatnot, and fixed 5G wireless. So they've done very well in that area. They have pretty much been the sole source of growth in the broadband area over the last couple of years, just about, because as companies that provide fiber have been deploying more fiber, they've been losing broadband customers on their copper networks. So they've been kind of holding flat to losing just this most recent quarter. Really all the cable operators except for Charter have lost ground basically on their broadband service. Charter has grown, I think probably because they were deploying fiber in some areas where they had got funding. So, but T-Mobile was the big winner. They really were like over 100% of the adds of broadband. Actually, was it last year? I think it was the total of last year. Turned out to be T-Mobile, and then Verizon also had fixed wireless ads as well. So T-Mobile's been doing well there, but they don't have a fiber play. So in the long term, kind of the long game, they're at a disadvantage. Somebody like Verizon, again, they have coming out of a wired telephone business. They have the ability to roll out fiber. They've been doing that for years and years, but they have that old DSL infrastructure, that copper infrastructure that they're having to rip out and put in fiber. So that's taking a toll on their ability to expand, having to overbuild certain existing areas. But they have the wireless play as well. You've got AT&T. Obviously, they have been traditionally a fiber provider and doing a joint venture, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then you've got T-Mobile, who didn't really have a fiber play. They have deployed fiber. They haven't deployed fiber. That, as far as I know, they have rolled out fiber in certain areas on open access networks, just like any other marketer could do. They don't have to have any skin in the game from the standpoint of deploying that and paying for capital towards that infrastructure. So that's a big difference there. But here you see T-Mobile. This is on Fierce Telecom. T-Mobile rumored to form fiber joint venture with Lumos Networks. Lumos started out as High Point, can't remember. They were a telephone company in North Carolina, and they later merged and became Lumos. So I see here T-Mobile would invest at least $1 billion in this joint venture, according to this German outlet Handelsblatt. Already serving fiber in 13 U.S. markets. Reportedly, it would partner with Lumos Networks. So these are rumors, so it's not necessarily been reported yet. The German news outlet Handelsblatt is reporting that T-Mobile is about to enter a joint venture with Lumos Networks to build fiber networks in the U.S. T-Mobile would invest at least $1 billion in the joint venture, according to Handelsblatt's sources at T-Mobile's parent company, Deutsche Telekom. Initially, the joint venture plans to build fiber optic connections in Virginia. T-Mobile declined to comment on the report. Lumos Networks did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Fierce Telecom. However, we've been tracking T-Mobile's efforts to build fiber in the U.S. T-Mobile is currently selling fiber services in 13 markets, according to the availability tab on its T-Fiber website. None of those 13 markets is in Virginia. However, Lumos Networks provides fiber internet to more than 300,000 homes and businesses in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, with plans to reach 1 million fiber passings by 2026. The company is undertaking engineering and construction in 18 markets within those 3 states. So that is, again, they kind of started out in North Carolina, so that is their familiar ground, so to speak. So this will give them and T-Mobile, this joint venture, it'll give Lumos the ability to expand out as far as where they can build fiber, and it will give T-Mobile a partner where they can then have a little more stake, a little more control in what happens as far as these fiber deployments. Now, what in these 13 markets, I think it mentions it here, the 13 markets that T-Mobile is in now, I don't believe they built any of those because it's just not their business. I believe that they were all other networks, which we'll see a list of here, that were provided on an open access basis. So T-Mobile could be one tenant, so to speak, on that open access networks, and there would be other marketers that could be on there. I don't know. It doesn't say. Obviously, this is all just conjecture right now, whether Lumos and T-Mobile would be building open access networks, or if the two of them would be building networks where only T-Mobile and maybe Lumos would be retail partners on there, or maybe Lumos would not be a retail partner. Maybe they would build a network and take a portion of the revenue from that and not have to worry about the marketing side. So maybe Lumos builds the networks, maybe T-Mobile is going to do all the marketing and all of the, provide all of the services over that they would normally provide over, let's say, a fixed wireless internet connection. So it'd be interesting to see how that comes out. It says here, Lumos is sourcing its fiber cables from the Indian vendor STL, which recently invested $56 million to open a U.S.-based fiber optic plant in Lugoff, South Carolina. So that's in their neighborhood. And I'm sure that is related to the BEAD program and the Build America, Buy America requirements in there. So this will give that company the ability to sell fiber to companies in the United States that are going to be deploying fiber for BEAD because it will be manufactured in the U.S. In February, T-Mobile provided Fierce Telecom with the names of the fiber providers it's working with in each market. So again, they did not, looking at this, they did not build the networks. Got Tillman Fiber Co., Pinellas County, and Polk County in Florida. It's interesting that's in Florida because we'll see here that AT&T is looking to expand there. Intrepid Fiber Networks in Pueblo and North Glen, Colorado, and in Bloomington, St. Cloud, Sauk Rapids, and Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Sci-Fi Networks, Kenosha, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, Farmington area in Michigan, and in Oceanside and Palmdale, California, and Pilot Fiber in New York City. So if you go to their website, you could order or get fiber from them, and it would be riding over one of these fiber providers. And again, T-Mobile, you'd be getting the service through them. They would be billing you. It would be, I'm sure, providing the customer and technical support and probably additional features and perks and whatever else that you would get from T-Mobile, getting their service, maybe like deal on their cell phone service if you bundle the two together. So they can do all kinds of things because they're already a major player in telecom, so they can leverage that over these fiber networks that they didn't have to build. Let's see. T-Mobile did not name Lumos Networks as any of these as of February 7th when Fierce talked to them. To date, T-Mobile is focused on working with fiber providers who build open access networks. These networks are built by one infrastructure provider, but then can be leased to multiple service providers to compete for end customers. Lumos' website doesn't mention anything about open access. However, the company has recently partnered with Orange County, North Carolina to provide fiber internet to residents in the county, thus indicating that it's involved in municipal broadband projects. So that doesn't necessarily have to be an open access project. It could be that they will build it in partnership with that municipality, and then Lumos could be the marketer over that. So it could be that Lumos builds it, they provide access for the city as well, and that way the city gets fiber built and the two partner to do that. So it doesn't say necessarily that it is going to be an open access network. It could. Then mentions here AT&T and a fiber joint venture. If T-Mobile does form a joint venture with Lumos, it would be the second major fiber joint venture. AT&T has already made waves with its Gigapower joint venture with the private equity firm BlackRock. So that was announced a while back, and I did a broadcast about that as well. So by the way, I've linked to this article. I linked to another article I'm about to look at on AT&T and BlackRock, and then also a prior broadcast that I did about AT&T and BlackRock when they first announced their joint venture. So if you want to check that out, that's in the description of the video. So again, that's their joint venture. Gigapower is providing a wholesale open access fiber network to AT&T out of AT&T's out of footprint territory. So that was AT&T's strategy to try to quickly move forward in new areas. Because again, they've got a similar issue where a lot of their territory, they've got DSL infrastructure, they've got copper plant, and they need to overbuild that area if they want to have a chance of hanging on to those customers. But in new areas, out of network or out of footprint territory, they have formed this joint venture with BlackRock, and they are both, I'm sure, helping to fund those networks, and will both share in the revenue. And AT&T will be a tenant on that, but other marketers can come in there and market over that network as well. So whether or not T-Mobile will have a similar kind of plan where they do open access networks, or whether Lumos and T-Mobile decide to just make that strictly between them is not known at this point if this does move forward. So I also want to look at this other story that came out about the same time here, just these both within the last 2 days. You see here, Gigapower tees up Florida fiber foray. This is in light reading. Gigapower, the AT&T BlackRock joint venture, is expanding to 3 areas of Florida as part of a plan to build fiber to 1.5 million locations outside AT&T's legacy wireline footprint. So again, this is the joint venture there. Gigapower and AT&T has tagged 3 areas of Florida. Well, it's Gigapower, so it's AT&T and BlackRock. Has tagged 3 areas of Florida for fiber build-outs: Okaloosa County, Crestview, and Fort Walton. The plan is to deliver fiber-fueled multi-gig services to thousands of residential and business locations in those areas in the coming months, the company said. The deployment is headed by the JV. I keep hearing, when I see that, I think of junior varsity. The deployment is headed by the joint venture through a fund managed by its diversified infrastructure business, Gigapower noted. The JV did not say how much it is earmarked for the Florida build. Those 3 areas tie into Gigapower's plan to build open access fiber networks to 1.5 million locations that fall again outside of AT&T's wireline footprint. Gigapower has identified several other markets for a phase 1 network build that includes Vegas, parts of Arizona, including Mesa, Chandler, and Gilbert, portions of northeastern Pennsylvania, including Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, areas of Alabama, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. Not much detail on pricing of the services to be delivered over Gigapower's network has been shared yet. Regulatory documents reference that the network, which is being built on XGS-PON technology, will support multiple speed tiers, starting at around 300 megabits per second on up to 5 gigs. Gigapower has said that its network will be software upgradable to deliver up to 20 gigabits per second. So it's possible that it's the Nokia platform, if it's software upgradable. There may be other vendors that do that, but Nokia, for example, you can put in GPON and XGS-PON and 25 gig PON in the same chassis. It's a swap out of cards. So it says here software upgradable, but I think it's a swap out of the cards. But that really gives you a lot of flexibility that you can offer these lower speeds, like you see here, 300 meg, GPON, and then you can easily upgrade people to 10 gigs. So they have 5 gigs here, and then they've got 20 gigs, but that probably is 25 gig PON most likely, and just kind of holding back on some of that bandwidth to make sure everybody gets what they're supposed to get. And by the way, let me bring up here that we are a partner of Nokia. So if you are considering Nokia Fiber, or you already have it, we've got a couple of things that might be able to help you, especially if you are a mid-sized to smaller ISP that's looking at Nokia Fiber, already has it. There's a couple of things we can do. One, we can get you the equipment, but also their Altiplano service activation software, really powerful stuff, but complicated for many smaller to mid-sized operators to set up and maintain. So we've got a couple of options there where we can go ahead and host that in our data center. We host the Altiplano platform. Plus, we set it up. We configure it for you. We set up all your device configurations for the provisioning of the fiber devices. We will ongoing maintain that as you have changes to configurations. So you don't need to worry about the equipment costs of hosting Altiplano, the expertise to set it up, and to the daily ongoing management and maintenance of that system. We'll take care of that for you. So just something to be aware of. The other thing that we can do, again, in partnering with Nokia, is something we call DOCSIS provisioning adapter. So if you're a cable operator wanting to expand into fiber in areas, and it's like, then you're thinking, well, not only do you have to do all the fiber stuff, but what about my provisioning system? That's a whole forklift upgrade on my fiber provisioning, because it's different from your DOCSIS provisioning. Cable operators know DOCSIS provisioning, but they don't know the new fiber stuff, and it's all, a lot of times it's proprietary. So we have a DOCSIS provisioning adapter for Nokia, so you don't need to worry about, if eventually you're going to do everything fiber if you're a cable operator, but that could be years and years down the road. But right now, if you don't want to have to maintain 2 provisioning systems, you can provision your Nokia fiber devices with your DOCSIS provisioning system, with our DOCSIS provisioning adapter kind of sitting between your DOCSIS provisioning and the Altiplano service activation platform. And we take care of the kind of the middleware translation of that, so to speak, so that you don't need to worry about implementing a whole new provisioning system. And that's a big lift if you're going to be managing 2 systems. You don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about training your technicians on a new system or your CSRs or your billing people. You don't need to worry about your budget and whether you can have your BSS, OSS people wait on them to approve a budget for a new provisioning system. You don't need to worry about that. Just continue using your DOCSIS stuff. So I just want to make sure that you are aware that we do that and that's available to you. I'll have our contact info up here at the end here if that is of interest. So let's see. AT&T is Gigapower's initial anchor tenant for these build-outs. Gigapower has not announced any other tenants that will sell services off its network, but the JV has been asked if any additional tenants have signed on. They've been asked, but I guess they haven't answered. I don't know. So again, that's the whole point of an open access network, is that AT&T would be maybe one tenant, the initial one, because they're part owner. So it's like, if I'm assuming, and I've mentioned this last time, I think, I'm assuming that if there's going to be a decision to build out fiber in an area, that AT&T is on board and saying, yeah, we're going to be a tenant here. I don't know if they would do it otherwise. But if they're going to be a tenant, then they'll open that up to other companies that can come in, including T-Mobile, by the way. Interesting. Anybody. It's not, I don't think they can say, yeah, well, T-Mobile, you're a competitor. You can't come in and sell there. I think T-Mobile could come in as another tenant as well as anybody else. Local internet service providers. If there's a fixed wireless company in the area that suddenly is going to be struggling because there's a new fiber operator right there in their footprint, they can say, you know what, we'll be a tenant on there, and they can sell fiber over that network in addition to their fixed wireless service. So maybe they have two plans. They could have a fiber one that's maybe a little more expensive, and they could have their fixed wireless one that's a little less expensive, and let people choose if they want to do that. If they can maintain, I guess, the fixed wireless network with the number of customers that they might have still on there based on that. So there's lots of people that can then get on that network. And it would be the same if T-Mobile and Lumos decide that's going to be an open access network. Then AT&T could become a tenant on that network, and they wouldn't need to build the network, and they could just market their services over that. Verizon could be a tenant. So it'd be pretty interesting. Now, of course, open access networks are nice because you have one company doing the infrastructure, but you can have multiple companies that are competing on there. But the risk is that the more companies you get on, the fewer customers each one is going to have. So, is it worth their while? Now, they don't have a lot of skin in the game, again, as far as the deployment cost, because the company that deploys the fiber does that. But in the case of AT&T and BlackRock and T-Mobile and Lumos, they do have more skin in the game because they are part investors in this venture. So they need to consider, as new tenants come on there, what that means as far as their ROI, what they put into that network, even though they're not 100% funding it, it's a shared venture, what they put into that network versus what they're getting out of it. For the tenants, the other tenants that come on, it's basically pay as you go. You get customers, and then you're paying a fee as you get a customer. There might be an upfront fee to get access to the network, but then you're paying per subscriber generally, I would think, as you get those customers. So you can, then fund it basically that way through your subscription. So it works out pretty well. So interesting stuff happening here. I guess we'll find out in the next few days if this does go through. In the next few days or weeks, I don't know how long it would take. But again, T-Mobile, the one carrier, let's say, that does not have a fiber option right now, other than other providers in an open access network. This may be something where they have their own network that they work with Lumos, that they either sell open access themselves and have more of a stake. They have more of a stake, but then more revenue coming in from it. Or maybe it's just a private venture just between them where they and Lumos share the revenue. And that is another thing that, as if AT&T and T-Mobile if T-Mobile makes this open access, and you've got AT&T and BlackRock with their open access, of course, the joint venture shares in the revenue from the others. So that is part, I was saying how there's less revenue as you get more people on there. But of course, some of that revenue is going back to the joint venture as well. So everybody does well. It's just as you have more, the pie is split. There's less for everybody if you do it that way. But it does good for the consumer and can bring prices down. Now, the prices can only get so low, and then everybody's kind of competing on the same price points pretty much. And then it's a matter of, okay, who has the best customer service, who has the best selection. Everybody can offer the same speeds if they want generally. Who has the best? What else could there be? One might offer voice service and IPTV and the other might not. So they might get customers that want that in a bundle. One might offer cell service like a T-Mobile or an AT&T, and the others don't have that. So you can bundle those things together. Like I said, there's different ways that they can market it to compete. And one more plug for us before you leave. Again, I want to make sure that you're aware of this. If you're an ISP watching this, is if you want to offer voice or video, or if you need help with technical support and having really industry-leading help desk services for your subscribers, your broadband subscribers, look to us. You see our website there and our email. We've been providing outsourced internet support since the dial-up days, and obviously moved into cable and fiber and wireless and all of that. We do have a fully hosted and managed voice service that you don't have to have a voice network and phone numbers and porting and E911, all of that. And we've got a fully managed IPTV service where you don't need to worry about the programming, and you have very little equipment in your head end. You don't have to have big satellite dishes and just very little equipment. And it's an IPTV service that you can offer. So those are the things that you can look at us for. Just go to our website and you can read more about that. Thanks for joining me today. Appreciate it. And give me a thumbs up if you like this. And if you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, ring the bell to be notified when I'm live. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.